So you're planning on breastfeeding and you want to know what do you need to buy, what you don't need to buy, and what you need to know to make your breastfeeding journey go smoothly. Well, you are in the right place. So I'm a breastfeeding mum of 3. I fed my firstborn for a year, my secondborn for 2 years, and I'm currently feeding Daisy here, who is 5 weeks old. So I'm by no means an expert, but I have picked up a thing or two during my feeding journeys. So the first thing that I would highly recommend is a good feeding pillow. Now you will need this whether you're breastfeeding or whether you're bottle feeding. Feeding your baby takes a real toll on your body, particularly your upper body, your neck, your shoulders, your back, and your arms. So my feeding pillow here is from Jojo Mama and Baby, and I would highly recommend this. It is super snuggly and supportive. So the next thing that I consider an essential for any breastfeeding journey is a good nipple cream. I've used the Laniso nipple cream in the past, but found this to be quite thick and heavy. And this time round I have used the Burt's Bees nipple cream, so it's a soothing nipple cream here. This is my second tube and I have been lathering this on and found it super helpful. This brings me to my first tip, which is that it is normal to experience some amount of pain in the first few weeks of feeding. I think so often we are told as mums that if you're experiencing any pain, then you haven't got the latch right, you're not doing it properly, etc, etc. But this is simply not true. In those first couple of weeks, particularly, baby is so small, their mouths are so small, and it's really hard to get that latch right. It is perfectly normal to experience some amount of pain. Keep lathering on the nipple cream and you will find any cracking and bleeding will heal up and it will get easier. And that then brings me to my next tip, which is to make sure that you get that latch right as far as you possibly can. I would do some reading up when pregnant, watch some YouTube videos. I will link some below that will show you what a good latch looks like, but essentially some of the things you want to remember is to get baby tummy to mummy. So that means not feeding like this, but turning baby in so that their tummy is in towards you. You want to have them a bit kind of further down your body that might feel natural. And you want to position them so that their chin is to your skin. So that means you want to get their chin in towards your areola. That encourages them to tip their head back a little bit, to open their mouth really super wide, and then you want to get as much nipple as possible into their mouth, and you want to make sure that your nipple is not touching the roof of their mouth, which will cause some pain to your nipple. There's lots to remember there, which is why it is super important to do the reading up, do the swatting up before you have baby, and then to get as much support as you possibly can after you've had baby. Utilise the lactation midwives at your local hospital, utilise your local lactation experts, and find where your nearest breastfeeding support group is. For me, I have a local breastfeeding support group that meet regularly throughout my county during the week, and I went to see them on day 4 of my feeding journey with Daisy here to help remind me of all the things that I needed to know, because even though this is the 3rd baby that I have fed, each baby is so different, and with time and sleep deprivation you really do forget things. So next up, in terms of breastfeeding essentials, I would recommend reusable breast pads. So I would not recommend buying disposable breast pads. I have some here that I was gifted previously. I have never used these. I find that the reusable breast pads are so good and so soft on the skin. These are ones that I got from Amazon, coloured side out, soft side towards the body. I use these to make sure that the nipple creams, which are quite oily, don't stain my clothing, my bras and my vests. And also, so in the first few weeks of my feeding journey, when my milk supply is still settling and I get some leakage, that I'm collecting them in the breast pads and not getting milk all over my clothes. So highly recommend these. You can just chuck them in the washing machine. And next up, another essential that I would recommend getting and putting in your hospital bag is a nipple shield. This one here I have is from Medela. If you haven't seen one before, then they are super thin, sort of plasticky material you can see here. And they essentially draw out your nipple, kind of turn your nipple into a bit of a bottle. You can still feel baby, but they lessen the pain. If you have really bad bleeding and cracked nipples, then these might help you for a couple of days to heal up. If you're having problems getting baby latched on, maybe you have flat or inverted nipples, then these really help. Or if your baby has a really bad tongue tie and struggles to latch on, again, these really help. So I use these a lot with my firstborn. I used them for a few months before I transitioned baby from the nipple shield straight onto the boob, and they really saved my feeding journey. You might not need them, and I wouldn't often recommend something that you might not need, but when you need them immediately. And if you don't use them, you can give them on to a friend. So something that I don't recommend getting in the early days of your breastfeeding journey is an electric pump. I do have an electric pump here to show you, but unless you know that you plan on expressing and bottle feeding your baby, then I would not recommend spending out on an electric breast pump at the outset. I found that I needed it a lot with my firstborn, where I had to top him up where he was struggling to latch, and I really didn't use it. I could have not used it at all with my secondborn. I haven't used it so far with my third, but then that's quite normal. If you do find that you need one, you can often hire them from your local hospital. If you need one when you are still in hospital, then the hospital will provide that for you. So in the first 6 weeks of breastfeeding, it's not recommended that you do any pumping unless you are expressing to bottle feed, and that is because essentially breastfeeding works by supply and demand. The more milk that leaves your body, the more milk your body will make, and that might mean that you end up with an oversupply if you are pumping a lot in addition to feeding your baby from the breast. So something that I would recommend getting is a kind of letdown pump, they're called. You often hear them called a hacker pump. Hacker is a particular brand. I've always bought the Nature Bomb pumps. They are exactly the same, but again, it's kind of deceptive, and people will say that they collect the letdown. They don't just collect the letdown, they do also draw milk from your breasts. They do act as a pump. So again, it's really important not to use these too much in the first 6 weeks of breastfeeding. I only use them to collect a tiny bit of milk in the first 6 weeks if I need them to mix with any kind of medication, colic relief or such like. So how they work is when you're feeding from one boob, you attach the pump by way of suction to the other boob. So you just squeeze it, put it onto the nipple and let go, and then that draws milk from the other boob. They come with a stopper, and they also come with a lanyard now, which you can put around your neck and around the top of the bottle, and that means if baby accidentally kicks it or you lose the suction on the pump, then you're not going to lose all of the milk all over the bed. Super helpful, because I have done that with my firstborn before they had the lanyards. I have done that. It is not good. So another absolute essential are lots of muslin cloths, such as these. We have so many of these. They will never be a bad investment. I still use them to wipe the snotty noses of my 4 and 2-year-old. So next up, if you're going to do any kind of pumping and sterilising, then you want some sterilising bags, unless you have a particular bespoke steriliser. Now, because I'm breastfeeding and I'm not sterilising much, I love the microwave sterilised bags. I have got some here from Asda. I've got one out to show you. This is what they look like. Pop them in, a bit of water in the microwave for 3 minutes, and everything inside is sterilised. Hey presto. And again, if you're doing any pumping, you want milk storage bags. These are from Tommy Tippy. My pump, which is from Pumpables, also came with some milk storage bags. So my next tip is to make sure that you are eating and drinking enough. Water is really essential. If you're not drinking enough, then your body isn't able to create enough milk. When you're exclusively breastfeeding a child, your body is going to use up between 300 and 500 extra calories a day. So this is the perfect excuse to eat all of the snacks that you like. Snacks that are oat-based are particularly good for breastfeeding. You can get lactation cookies, which I bought for the first month of feeding Daisy here, as I really like these, but then I can't quite justify the cost for the whole of my breastfeeding journey. The ones I bought are from Mother's Love Cookies, and I will link them below. So next up, I would recommend a feeding light. I've got one here from Amazon, which I really like. These are really good for the early weeks of feeding, where you need to see what you're doing to get that latch right. This one works by touch and is rechargeable. So when you need it in the middle of the night, just put your hand on top, and then it has different colors and also different grades of lighting. So I have it on the white light. I normally have it on this most dim option. It has 3 different options there, so that if you're doing a nappy change, you might want more light, but you don't want to be putting a full light on and waking up the baby. After feeding is established and I've got the latch right, baby's maybe a bit bigger and I don't need quite so much light, then I use my Me Light. So this is the Me Light here. And it's rechargeable again. The actual light is quite small, and it comes with an attachment that you can put it onto clothing. So you would sort of sit it on the top of your pajamas. It's much dimmer than that light from Amazon there. And I find that this is super good for giving me just a tiny bit of light when baby's a little bit older and they're getting a bit more awake in general, and I don't want to wake them up for the night feed, but I still need to kind of see what I'm doing. Now the Me Light is a bit more expensive and it is not an absolute essential, so I'd say a night light is essential, but not necessarily the Me Light. And you can absolutely make do with this Amazon light, no problem. We have 2 of these Amazon lights now because my eldest likes to sleep with a bit of a light on, and we have a red light for him. As you can see, it has lots of different colors here, and the kids really love it. So he likes the red one, and it also has this like light changing option here, good for kids who struggle to sleep at night. And then lastly, in terms of kit, are feeding clothes. Now, you do not need to spend lots of money on bespoke feeding clothes. I think that all you need really is a decent nursing bra and some nursing vests, and then you can feed in whatever clothes that you have in your wardrobe already. Any jumper will do. If you have a feeding vest on, then you can unclip the feeding vest, lift up the jumper, and you will be able to feed plenty discreetly if that's what you wish. You don't have to feed discreetly at all, and if you're comfortable, just swap a boob out. Now, I do quite like bespoke feeding clothes to help me in terms of feeding more discreetly in the early days where I'm still trying to get the latch right. So this jumper is a bespoke kind of feeding item. It's by Nellie Nora, and I will link her shop, but essentially she buys up sweatshirts and hoodies, and then she adds really long zips into them, like here you can see, and then you are just unzipping, hard to do with a baby, in arms. Well, not hard to do actually, because I kind of like get my teeth around here, but it's not really one for a YouTube video. Should I leave that in? Should I not? We'll see. But yeah, anyway, so one-handed you can do it. Unzip, unclip bra, feed baby, and then you're still pretty covered. So I really like these jumpers. This is actually quite an old one. I managed to get this secondhand, but it has plenty of wear out of it for when I am at home. My favourite one, I'll insert some footage of, is a mustard coloured one, but Daisy here was sick all over it last night, so it's in the wash. Yeah. So also I have here to show you some bespoke breastfeeding t-shirts, and these are by the Milky Tea company. I really like these. They wash and wear super well. I bought these when I was feeding my firstborn, and they still look brand new. They come with slogans on, but they also do plain ones if you are not a fan of slogans. And they also have 2 zips down each side for discreet feeding. So I have that one that says love, and I have this one that says mother, but they also do plain ones. They do long sleeve t-shirts, and they do jumpers as well. So as I said, bespoke feeding clothes are not essential at all. The jumper that I'm wearing, those t-shirts, you do not need to go out and buy. You can make do with a nursing vest and nursing bra. In terms of a nursing bra, I would not buy a structured nursing bra for the first 6 weeks of feeding, and that is because your milk supply is still settling. Your boobs will change shape and size, so whatever you buy in the first 6 weeks probably won't fit you by the time you are 2 months down the line. So I like a kind of nursing crop top style bra that has a bit of stretch and give to it, that isn't sort of a particular size, that sort of comes in medium, large, extra large sizing. I found one that I really love for this feeding journey, and I will link that in the description. But I have one in the wash and I'm wearing one, so I can't show you them, but I will link them and I will try and copy a picture. I have here a little kind of cropped vest, nursing vest. So this has nursing clips on it. So this was a mother care one. It's pretty old, as you can see, but this is the sort of thing that I wear at night. You can get these from Seraphine, you can get them from Jojo Mum and Baby, you can get some great ones from eBay as well. So I recommend something like that for feeding at night. So we've talked about the fact that you might experience some pain in the early weeks and not worrying about that. We've talked about the importance of getting the latch right, and then my next tip is to just spend as much time as you can in those early weeks feeding your baby. Have lots of skin to skin. Just spend time with them, bonding with them, dedicate that time to feeding as much as you possibly can. I know that can be hard if you have older children, but just take the time that you can to and give yourself that grace. And my final tip is to wind regularly. When I had my firstborn, the midwife in hospital told me that breastfed babies didn't need to be winded, and this was utter rubbish. I have 3 very windy babies. So I find when babies are really small, you get them up on your shoulder to wind them, and they just fall straight back to sleep. This is a super comfy position for them. So a position that I find really helpful in those early weeks is to just get them kind of legs in between your legs, kind of in a seated position, and then put your hands just under their chin. So you're resting their chin on your hand, you're not holding their head up, and you're not stretching their neck at all in any way. So you're just sort of supporting them and holding them there, and then winding them in that position I find really helps. It sort of weights them a teeny bit. They're not as comfortable as being up on your shoulder, and then that is a much better position for getting the wind out of really young children. So I'm going to try and wake Daisy up in a minute. She's super comfy and super snuggly, but she needs to feed again soon. I really hope that you found this video helpful. If you did, please give me a like, it really does help. And Daisy and I will see you in the next one. Bye!